It is 2 minutes to midnight, remaining the closest to midnight that the clock has ever been set. 100 seconds to midnight.
To be no safer than it was last year.
The closest it has ever been to midnight. It is now 90 seconds to midnight.
When this takes place, thousands of tons of atomized earth, stone, brick and steel are sucked up into the mushroom cloud.
The reality, of course, and we should really understand that this is the reality, is that yes, the number of weapons, the number of nuclear weapons that exist, should they be used, they would have the potential to end the life as we know it, and the numbers are truly terrifying. It runs from tens of millions people dead in a matter of hours, and I've seen estimates that suggest that the consequences, like the nuclear winter, could lead to the death of billions of people. So it is a truly terrifying prospect, and we should realize that this is the potential is there. At the same time, I think it's not the reason, I hope it's not the reason to sort of to despair and to say to ourselves that, well, what can we do? I think that people can do something, and it is really, and we've seen actually, in fact, that the opinion of people, the opinion of communities, the opinion of states actually does have effect on averting this terrifying scenario. We know that at least we're from the point where we are today, we know that there are at least several steps that still separate us from that kind of scenario. One is that we know that what the Russian president actually said, and what the Russian officials have been saying, is that they would use nuclear weapons if in response to a threat to Russia proper, and in response to an attack on Russia that would endanger the very existence of the state. So that's what's in the doctrine, and that was a consistent message coming out of official Moscow. There are, of course, all those people who are involved in propaganda, but if you look at the officials, they were, well, I would say, not very careful, but they actually stuck to that line. That is one factor, and as we all understand, with whatever happens in the war, we are not there at the point when the very existence of Russia is in danger. I know that many people are concerned about the possibility of Russia using nuclear weapons in Ukraine, but that there we should realize that this kind of a use would not make any military sense, narrowly understood, because on the battlefield, those weapons are truly useless. And what you would imagine first, that Russia would at least, the leadership would shift the rhetoric, and they would at least send the message that they are prepared to do something like that, to attack Ukraine. But that is not a simple or easy decision to make, even for the current Russian leadership, because if you think about it, the only way that nuclear weapons could be used in this kind of war, they could be used basically to shock the opponent into surrender. And the problem with that is, of course, that this shock would have to be shocking enough, and that would have to involve literally killing tens and maybe hundreds of thousands of people. And my understanding that the threshold for this kind of a decision is actually pretty high. And we've seen actually that the realization of the reality of potential nuclear use, as people almost 2 years ago now started realizing that this is what could potentially happen. We've seen that the opinion, the public opinion and the states actually spoke very strongly against this idea, against the very idea that you could threaten with nuclear weapons to achieve whatever goals you may have. And I think that that public backlash and this public negative reaction actually did play a role in what we've seen. And we've seen that the level of rhetoric coming out of Kremlin, out of the official Kremlin, actually became lower and lower. Even though we can discuss and we can talk about this threshold, and we can talk about how difficult it would be to cross it, still, I think the physical reality is that those weapons are there, and they can be used. They are there to be used. And the danger, of course, is that there are indeed scenarios of escalation. There are scenarios in which we could come close to the point where nuclear weapon use would be much closer to reality than it is today. So I think I do believe that the concern is there, and the clock reflected that concern. How accurately, that's another matter, but I think it is true in my view that we are at the dangerous point. I would rather not go into specific scenarios. Sort of when you start kind of spelling them out, it may look like you make them realistic in a way. But the scenarios, of course, I think the concerning scenario is escalation. A conventional escalation and involvement of the Western states into the war directly, one way or another, or I think my worst case scenario would be that Russia at some point may decide to escalate the conflict and actually attack NATO states in one way or another, and then we may enter into this kind of a cycle of responses that could start, and I'm sure that if something like that would happen, it would start with the conventional conflict, conventional attacks, but then again, there are ways for this kind of exchange to escalate to a nuclear level and all the way up in a way. Let me start with with accidental escalation or accidental use. I hope, and I think when we've as we have been following this war for almost 2 years, my impression is that people are concerned about accidents. They are, to some extent, they are on guard. And I think, I hope that we are at the point where everybody understands that accidents, you should not act rashly in response to an accident. So we've seen that in a response when the stray missile landed in Poland. So there are signs that people would be careful about doing anything rash. However, the nature of accidents and is exactly that nobody can predict them, and the sometimes events could develop in unpredictable ways. Regarding the leaders, there is a danger there, of course, and in a way, we can see that this entire war, in many ways, it's a personal project of the president of Russia. The again, the hope is that we should understand that it's not like there is a button on the president's desk that he could push and everything would fly. And I think it's someone of the American generals actually put it very well, speaking of the United States. He said, yes, the president the president is the only person who can order the launch, but he is not the only person who is involved in the process of actually using, which is the case in the United States and as well as in Russia, and we don't know exactly how people would behave in these kind of circumstances, but nobody knows. And again, back to my point about the when we were talking about the threshold for use of nuclear weapons being very high, it is high in all circumstances, and it is very difficult to imagine the president summoning his generals and basically telling them, okay, you just go ahead and you just kill tens or hundreds of thousands of people in one go. It's hard to imagine this situation, even if you assume that the president will have like absolute power. There are certain guards there. If we are talking about a use of a nuclear weapon, I don't know, within Europe, for example, or against Ukraine, although, as I said, I don't think that this is a likely scenario, or something of that kind, well, there will be a certain time for assessing the events. And there, I believe that there would be time to process what happened and maybe even to have some kind of a public reaction to that. However, if it would come to the scenario in which, for example, one state like the United States would launch a massive attack against Russia, then we are talking about much more compressed timelines. And so an intercontinental ballistic missile it would take an intercontinental ballistic missile about 30 minutes to fly from the United States to Russia, and so it would be the matter of an hours at most. Because if there is a massive attack, then you would expect that Russia would respond in an equally massive fashion. So, yeah, and again, I've seen the simulations and estimates, and the numbers there could be again 40 to 50 million people dead in a matter of a couple of hours. So that's something we want to rule out to make sure that this could never happen.